Hi, and welcome to the farm. Today we're talking with Lauren, a beautiful rural mum from out in northwest New South Wales. We discuss moving to the farm for the first time with limited running water, solar power only, and a wood fire source for heat. Lauren learnt to live out there, isolated with her husband, and raising their kids on the land and the improvements and lessons they've learnt along the way. Now let's jump into today's episode. Lauren is a mum of three, a pediatric nurse, and she's there on the farm with her husband raising sheep and cattle. So, Lauren, can you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, your family, and how you became to be part of the farm?
Yeah, no worries. Hi everyone, I'm Lauren. I'm 29 and a registered pediatric nurse, but I'm currently on mat leave. um, Bit about my background. I grew up here in the New England on a sheep and cattle property and did my schooling here and then started nursing at UNE in Armidale. But my passion on the side, my hobby, is the red meat industry, in particular beef cattle. And I got into, stud stock and that sort of thing in my teen years. Did a bit of showing, got really involved in Herefords Australia and a few other societies. And yeah, like I said, did uni. And then I don't know, I had a few little life events happen as I was younger and deferred uni and decided to go up north and work on a cattle station up there for 18 months. And I was like, I had decided I was going to stay there. Like, I just decided I didn't want to do uni anymore. And, I loved sort of mustering and working in the yards and all of that up there and loved the life in the north. But I came home for Christmas to see my family, and that's where I met John. And I told him I didn't want a boyfriend, and I was moving back to Kununurra, which is where I was living. But yeah, I just came home. I had that sort of choice after sort of getting to uni, that 2 years you can defer for, and it was getting closer and closer. And I thought, like, I've really got to think about this now. Do I want to just be in stock camp and sort of move around, or do I want to finish my degree and nurse and that sort of thing? And it sort of just fell into place that I decided I'd do my degree, and at least I sort of have that as a backup. And when I came home to finish my degree, John and I sort of picked up where we left off, and that's sort of how I always said to my dad I wasn't going to marry a sheep and cattle farmer, but after growing up with one. But no, it was really lovely because he'd been in the territory for a little while, so we bonded over that. And he's from here originally as well, so it sort of all worked out. And then then we just moved in together and had our three girls. And moving out with John was an experience because he was living on his parents' other property. So we had literally like a shed, like a shack, and we had a donkey for hot water. For those who don't know, it's a 44-gallon drum with a fire underneath it. Um, we had like 2 rooms, which was all of our, kitchen, lounge room, and everything combined. But it was really fun. And we lived well for where we are. It's isolated, I guess. Armidale being our big regional city,
Yep.
we're an hour and a half from Armidale, and then 40 minutes from the local town. So for here, it's isolated. Not so much for other areas, but it was. We're sort of just out in the middle of nowhere, and we had solar panels for power. And then we had our 3 girls, sort of 3 and 4 years, and we've recently bought a little house in town that we sort of move in between, just with the kids' daycare and school and things. But yeah, that's us in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like a few challenges in the early days. How was it going from, I presume, having, constant hot water to the donkey system? And how did you have to manage that system?
Yeah, so at first it was a shock. Like, even with our cooking, we had a gas stove, but we do a lot of our cooking in winter on the fire, like on the heater and that sort of thing. So, and even, even to this day, I find myself not turning anything on at night because we had solar panels, even though we're in town a lot at the moment. And I remember we have power, but yeah, it was a bit of a challenge. But I think because we just had the one baby and, first parents, you're a little bit, well, we were a little bit, I guess, just didn't even know what to expect. We were a little bit too casual, probably. So, so we just, yeah, we just sort of went along with it. But I think after a while, you don't notice it. Like, I just got used to having to, turn the fire on of a morning to get hot water, and having to sort of plan when I did the dishes and that sort of thing. So, yeah, we eventually actually put a dishwasher in there, but yeah, at the time, I think we just got used to it. But it was a shock, especially if you don't sort of collect wood and you're there at the house without wood for hot water, and you've got to ring ring your partner and ask him to come and help get some wood. But yeah, and I think as well, luckily for me, I'd lived in stock camp for a little while, so we had donkeys and things there, so I got used to it. But yeah, with a baby, it was a big shock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Armidale's also not known for its warm climate. It's quite cold and it does get snow and sleet.
Yeah.
So with your wood heater setup, tell us a little bit about that, and the adjustment to having that being in the stock camps again would have been a lot of help.
Yeah. Yeah. So we actually bought this like $10 heater at a clearing sale. We always planned to actually put it in the shed, like the shearing shed, and we thought, oh, let's just stick it in the little shed house and see how we go, because we weren't actually planning to live out there, but it just sort of worked with, with farm work as it does.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, so the heater was this little dingy $10 wood heater, and we didn't know what it was going to do, but it was actually, it warmed the whole house. And I think one sort of another advantage of growing up in the New England, I was used to, come Easter time or even summer, we start collecting wood for the fire. So yeah, so I think I'm terrible at like starting them though, because my dad always did that. So that's something that I had to learn to do. But I would avoid it at all costs if I could. But no, I got there in the end. It was either you light the fire or you freeze. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Lauren, was there other tips, tricks, and hacks that you learnt when you first moved to the farm shed and stayed there that you think would be handy for those either moving into a similar situation or onto the farm for the first time?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the biggest barrier I found, so obviously, if you haven't experienced that sort of more camping living, it is all, it is a lot of just, you just have to get in and do it. But I think the biggest thing for me was probably being out there with the neighbors being, like a fair way away. I didn't have a lot of support when I was at home. Like when it was just John and I'd go out with him if I wasn't studying or working. But when the baby came along, you're at home and you can't really call out and be like, oh, can you just, light the fire, or can you, yeah, get the solar panels going? Like, we need power, that sort of thing. So I think just trying to have a few, sort of prepare. Like I got really good at preparing things, making sure everything was stocked up, and also just support, like just making sure you have someone you can call, or even little things like I bought a TV and I went and got internet that runs off like the 4G network, but I was able to watch Netflix. Just little things like that. Yeah, just really help. Just having those little comforts, I guess. Like that's something that you feel slightly less, yeah, out of it, out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Did you
Yeah.
organise little trips to town or anyone come out to you as well?
Yeah, yeah. So sometimes and it's funny to even think now that, we sort of drive half an hour to Armidale now, but from there it was an hour and a half, and I would do the hour and a half to Armidale and back once or twice a week. And, I'd take my baby to like a play group or like a little music group or something like that. And I'm so lucky though that I do have a lot of neighbours who have older children, so I could just go there if I wanted to, or they'd pop over. So that was nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's just I think I was lucky that they all sort of knew what I was going through, so they would
yeah.
just come over. Yeah, which was great.
That's really nice.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
really good.
yeah.
So, Lauren, going to town once or twice a week means that you probably weren't doing, your grocery shopping every couple of days. So tell me the types of things that you needed to prepare and plan in regards to, feeding yourselves and child supplies.
Yeah, definitely. So I'd always do. In the beginning, I was going in and shopping, and I realized this is not going to work with a new baby. So we started doing the click and collect, which was lovely. But it's just the big things, invest. I cannot stress enough. Invest in a chest freezer or like a big deep
Yeah.
freezer. I would, I didn't even realize this. Someone actually asked me, oh, can you freeze fresh milk? And I said, yeah, I've been doing it for years. Like, you can definitely freeze fresh milk.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just do a big bulk buy of milk and butter and flour and that sort of thing. I'm very lucky that John and I both are able to cut up the meat. So we have a cool room, like a meat room. So we would often do that ourselves. And yeah, with veggies, that was the hard thing because they don't last that long. But we do have a veggie garden that does quite well. So a lot of our veggies we grew. Otherwise, I'd just buy the odd one that was out of season. If I really felt like a broccoli or something, we'd just get that. But yeah, a big stock up basically. We'd do like either a fortnightly or a monthly shop,
Yeah.
and then big boxes of nappies, or I actually eventually went to just all cloth nappies. I found that a lot easier with especially because we don't have like rubbish removal.
Yeah.
So I found nappies a lot easier. Yeah, and the baby stuff, the wipes. I got caught out a few times with wipes, but you get creative. I cut up a few old sheets and turn them into little cloth wipes and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, without having waste removal, how does the farm operate in able to take that away? Does it have an on-farm tip? Do you compost?
Yeah, so we do a lot of composting with our paper and that sort of thing, like cardboard.
Yeah.
We have a worm farm for our scraps. My chickens decided that they were too precious to eat scraps. So, yeah, so we started a worm farm. They would not touch the scraps. Um, and as far as all our other rubbish, we have just a big sort of pit that we will burn off in the wet. When it gets wet, we'll just sort of slow burn it for a few days. Yeah, and then I'm sure every farmer is the same, but my partner loves to keep every little bit of scrap metal and
Yeah.
white. So he has a little pile away from the house because I got sick of looking at it. That keeps all that somewhere. I occasionally see it if I'm in the paddock, but yeah.
Yeah. No, you definitely never know when they will want to use something like
Yeah.
that. So it sounds like moving to the block was a nice, easy way of setting up your community because mentioned that they really knew what you were going through. So how did you reach out to meet people in the area as well as establish those friendships with them?
Yeah, so I was very fortunate that John had been at the farm for about a year before me, and I'm fortunate as well that his mum is from the area,
Yeah.
um, so he sort of already knew a few people around the area, and he'd already been there for about a year, and he's quite a friendly sort of fella, so he sort of knew all the neighbours already. So whenever he'd say to me, let's go over and see such and such. They're shearing this week. Let's go and have a look at their wool. Or, Yeah, which was really lovely. And he'd, say, oh, I'm going to go over to, this person's place. Did you want to come and we'll stay for dinner and that sort of thing. So it's really nice that way that, he and John, my partner, he's also a diesel mechanic by trade. So he'd quite often go to neighbouring properties and do a bit of work on their machinery. And so I'd sort of head over there with him and meet the wife or the, mother or whoever was over there. And it's really, I've found them all really welcoming. So that was really nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really, really beautiful. So, Lauren, if you had a friend, or you knew of someone who was moving to the farm for the first time,
Yeah.
what would be the top things you would tell them or advise them on to get set up before they move to the farm?
Yeah, definitely. So, I think, just sort of knowing, just about, well, the groceries,
Yeah.
definitely, because I was caught out when we first moved to that farm. We actually had a car fridge. That was our fridge. So we did buy a bigger fridge event like soon after, but yeah, at the time that's what we had. So yeah, a big deep freezer, the groceries, the rubbish, and just I think if you're not used to the isolation, it can be very daunting. I know I've got a lot of friends who have children in the city who will, pop over to their mums for breakfast and that sort of thing, where, my mum is about an hour and a half away or 2 hours away. So we don't see them as much. And I think, just trying to set up those support networks. And I think having a chat, like you and your partner, you're sort of the engine of that business,
Yeah.
and you need to have each other's backs because it is a big, I at the start I would sometimes get a bit frustrated with John, going in the dark and coming home in the dark, but we just had to sort of work it out and have a chat about how it was going to work, especially when the kids came along. um, I think the biggest thing, and I think another thing with farm life is, particularly if you're moving onto a property and you have children or you're planning children, definitely something that I didn't think about until kids was safety. So like even just water buckets and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and just making sure you've got a few hobbies. Like I love horse riding and gardening, so I really sort of took that into, like, I did that a lot. I rode my horses and did the gardens and things when John was out, if I wasn't working with him or my baby was asleep. Just keeping busy. And I think, if you do immerse yourself, if you want to go out and work with your partner, you come to love it. I don't know, I did, but
Yeah.
just getting involved. And I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing.
Lauren, tell me more about going down the paddock with your husband, both when it was just the two of you and then also now that you've got the three beautiful girls with you there on the farm.
Yeah, definitely. So when it was John and I'm very lucky actually. We work in the yards quite well together. There's not many arguments. So I was very lucky there. But, I would go with him. We'd do fencing. We would, like, I've got some young horses that are probably like Brumbies now, but at the time we were, they haven't been ridden for a while, but, we'd work them together. I'm very lucky that he can shoe and, do all their feet and everything. So we'd sort of just work alongside each other. And I would help him out. I'm terrible. I don't like spraying. So I'd go and do something else. That's the only job I won't go and help him with. But yeah, it was really fun. And I really love being outside. I think it's just a little bit of a break from, I do a lot of, my job now is a lot different. But at the time I was doing a lot of uni and study and, working in the public health. So being outside with John was great. And I think when I had the kids, that was the biggest thing for me, was having to step back from that.
Yeah.
The kids now, like the two others, are 4 and 20 months, so they love going out in the paddock with Dad and me. But um, when Anna, our first, came along, especially with you breastfeed and that sort of thing, I was at home a lot, and that really, I didn't like that part of it.
Yeah.
it was really, and if I said to John, I'll come with you, I'll come down the paddock and we'll come feeding, because Anna was born in that awful 2019 drought. It was, oh, I've actually got to pack a nappy, I've actually got to pack this, I've got to pack this. So it was a huge eye opener. I'm finally, okay with it. But at the time I felt, a bit frustrated, not at the baby or anything, I was just frustrated at myself, I guess, not being able to be so hands-on. But going down the paddock, it got easier. Like, when they're toddlers and they start walking, you just throw them in the car with you and you head down the paddock. But it was that big shift of having someone else there that's, you've got to look out for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you take the car down the paddock? Did you pop them in the stroller, or were you a baby wearer?
Yeah, I did a bit of everything actually. I remember 1 month. John was away working. He just went and did a bit of work on other properties as well, particularly in the drought when we were sort of destocking a lot. And we had a lot of our cows calving. I think it was about this time actually. And I had to go and check them because he wasn't going to be home till late. So I popped my little 2-month-old in the baby carrier on the front and hopped on the quad bike and just sort of idled down to these cattle. They were only a few paddocks away. But as she got a bit bigger, I guess it's all these little things that you don't think about. But I eventually worked out, oh yeah, I could actually buy a second car seat and pop this in the farm car. And so we started doing things like that. And I would often walk my dog. I've got a little just a little house, like a cattle dog that lives at the house, and I'd walk her down the mailbox and pop the baby in the pram. So a bit of everything, but just to get out in the fresh air.
A nice combination that works for every occasion.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Beautiful. Lauren, that probably comes to the end of my official questions for our chat today. Did you have any other tips, tricks, hacks, or stories that you wanted to share with the rural mum community?
Yeah, I think another thing, sorry, this is probably going a little bit into a more of a, I'm not trying to scare anyone, just something that I found really, really, like I didn't even think about it. I don't even think I thought about it until I became a nurse, but probably just knowing about your sort of your health, like your safety in the area as well. I remember having to ring an ambulance for John once, and because of where we are, we're not overly isolated, but we're isolated for this area, like I was saying before. And I rang I rang 000, and the poor person, the operator on the other end, had no idea where we were and couldn't find us. And luckily, I was able to get John in the car and take him in, and he was okay. But when we got there, the local ambulance, like the local paramedics, they knew where we were, but because the operator wasn't aware, they couldn't come out to us. So we've had to put a few things in place, like buying those little council signs and a few other things on our phone, like the GPS apps and that sort of thing. I think that was a big thing for me, just with John working on his own.
Do you use Emergency Plus or a different app?
Yeah, no, the Emergency Plus, that was great. I didn't even know it was a thing. So yeah, that was really good. And I know Anna had a little scare. She was in the garden, and I have these big lavender plants, and they'd gone a bit crazy. And there was a brown snake in there, and she was only 2, and I didn't know if she'd been bitten or not.
Yeah.
So that was because what 2-year-olds are like, they tell you stories. So
Yes.
so that was a really big eye opener, just because I didn't know. I didn't know who to call or what to do, because when I lived on the cattle station, we had choppers and radios. So not having phone service an hour from Armidale was a bit, full on, but it was all good. We used the app, and she was fine. So just little things like that.
Yeah. So Lauren, tell us a little bit more about the app for if anyone hasn't heard of it or hasn't used it before. Tell me a little bit how it works.
Yeah, no worries. So I'm sorry, I'm not very good at technology, so I think I can explain it, but it's an app on our phone, and it will just pick up your GPS coordinates. And if you click onto it, I think from my understanding, it will go through to the operators at 000, but it's more your GPS location, so you don't actually need to have service. It's fantastic. So yeah, if you don't have service, it can just sort of track where you are rather than trying to get on staying on the phone for like 20 minutes like I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great, and you can pay. I think there's some in-app purchases, but you can also download it free. So it was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's fantastic. I remember one of the times that I had to call 000 to the farm,
Yeah.
and I have been out here almost 10 years. And when they asked me to spell the road name, I was like, I don't know.
Oh, yes, I know. You get so used to just going down the road.
Yeah, it was just
Yeah.
like the spelling of the name was not at the forefront of my mind because it wasn't important at the time.
Yeah.
No, so having the app with the coordinates that you can then tell the phone operator so you can move on from where you are to the situation at hand is definitely helpful.
Yeah.
And so being a registered nurse, tell me about the first aid and safety supplies that you have on farm.
Yeah, no worries. So John and mine is actually a little bit dismal, but the kids, we've got basic Panadol and that sort of thing. But the kids, I have Panadol, Nurofen. I've got a thermometer. The underarm thermometers are the best. If anyone's needing to put something together. We have what else? I'm trying to think now. I've got all the basic sort of things. I've got compression bandages and that sort of thing for snake bites. What else do we have? We've got ice packs, heat packs. And as far as even just sickness with kids, like saline drops and little nasal aspirators and that sort of thing. For John and I, we've got Panadol, Nurofen, compression bandages again. Just a few other bits and bobs, I guess, that I think about it now and I'm like, I don't know why I've got that. But just like saline and I guess things just for cleaning as well. So like saline and iodine and bandages. I forgot about bandages, like wound care, like just, if you need to, someone gets caught on a barbed wire fence or something and it needs a clean. Just things like that. I think I've got pretty basic first aid kit at the moment that needs updating, but I bring stuff home from work sometimes that's sort of in excess and I forget what's in there.
That's really good, Lauren. Anything else that you'd like to share with those moving to the farm for the first time?
I think something else that I didn't really hint on that I probably should is weather. So the weather is so daunting. I know that everyone's probably feeling the same way at the moment. We go from dry to sopping wet at the minute. And it can be really disheartening. And I know that John and I, in those times at the start, and especially I guess because we became first-time parents in the drought, the first big drought, but we really sort of disconnected and it was a really awful time for everyone just with the dry. And I think if you don't already know, like I'm sort of fortunate that I've, grew up on a farm and that sort of thing. So I was sort of knew about drought and when it got too wet, but that can be a really isolating time as well because, sometimes that's all the partner can think about or your husband will think about is, feeding or what's the weather doing? Do we have to sell? Can we actually restock and that sort of thing? It's huge. And I think if you don't have that prior knowledge, it can be really isolating for you, but also for them. So I think just, always just keep talking to your partner because farmers tend to just keep it to themselves. And I know that that's the cliche, but it's so true. I know sort of now when John is stewing on something and I just say, you just have to tell me what's wrong. Tell me about it. So then we can have a chat about what he's thinking about. And usually it is something like feeding.
My favorite saying is a problem shared is a problem halved.
Yes, definitely. Totally agree. Yeah. And also try and get away. If you can do a little holiday or something at least once or twice a year, I think it does everyone a world of good because I don't know about I'm sure all the farmers are the same, but even if you say to them, let's have a break this weekend or this week, they'll still want to go outside and work. So actually removing them from the farm's the best idea.
What are your best tips for actually getting John off the farm?
Yeah, so that is a hard one. He loves working, but I think the biggest thing, again, I just talk to him. So I know with this bub coming along, I struggled to breastfeed the other two. So I said to him, look, I really want to feed this baby. You're going to have to sort of be at home a bit more and help out. And he was really good. He's been quite supportive with that. But also I said to him, you know, it's really good for us and the kids to all have a break. Like we need to go to the beach or, you know, somewhere and just have a break. And fortunately he does love the water. So he does agree to the odd holiday here and there. We're well overdue at the moment, but that's all right. But yeah, I think another thing, yeah, just chatting and just telling him we all need a break and, you know, the kids need a break too. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Well, Lauren, thank you very much for coming on this episode of So You've Married a Farmer, Now What, and sharing your experience and your knowledge with us. I know that this will help so many people moving to the farm for the first time. If you've been listening along or watching us on YouTube, then thank you very much for joining us. Please like, subscribe, and add your comments in the section below about what you've loved about today's interview. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been lovely to talk to you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
No worries.